we call this Walking Together and Fostering Hope. And over the years, I'm trying to figure out a title for my talk. I've had Journey Towards Recovery. Sometimes I do the Men Need Men talk for my friends here. We did a men's weekend recently, and it varies. But it always boils down to this one main theme for my talk is this: suicide stinks. Yeah. I'm an accounting major. That's what we bottom line everything, right? That's what it is. So let's get into it. My name is Dennis Skillen. Suicide stinks. Thank you, everybody. We're gonna go back to Greenville. It's been real. I did that at a school one time because the kids had to get credit to be there. And I did this joking opening, and the kid took off. Like, he was out the door before I could say, "It's a joke." But he got credit. He's in there. I owe you more than that. I wish I could say 2 words and get out of here, but I owe you more than that. But before we get into the gist of this whole thing, is the microphone on? No. Did it disappear? Check, check, check. Check, check, check.
There you go.
Good. All right, we can start the whole thing over.
Now we're enthusiastic.
There we go. What? Okay, back to square one. Before we get fully involved in this, and thank you for that. You can interrupt at any time. This is the little group that could. You say, "Hey, Dennis, we can't hear you." Content warning. We're going to talk about the icky, sticky stuff of life. We're going to mention suicide. I already did. We're going to talk about all this stuff. If you need grace, if you have to leave, it has happened. It has happened. It's a little raw for some folks, and people have left. Now, if that happens, as a group that loves each other, I'm going to ask somebody to follow that person. Now, if you have to go to the bathroom, we just heard the bathroom announcements, just give me the thumbs up. We won't follow you. You're on your own. Okay? You got this. You can do it. But again, grace will, I'm in a church. Grace will be given, and we get it. It's a tough subject. Let's be honest. Have you ever felt this way? I used this opening slide one time when I got to speak to a group at Celebrate Recovery. And I love that audience because they're on the comeback trail. Everybody, when I did my Journey Towards Recovery title, I said, everyone's recovering from something. Is that a fair statement? And everybody loves a good comeback. Come on, we're in a church. The greatest comeback ever was the resurrection, right? We all thought it was over, and wow, it's not over. So when I use this slide, I would say this. I said, have you ever felt this way? My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. My voice is cracking just reading this line because I know what it is in my Bible. It's in red letters. This is Jesus talking. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he's not feeling it at the moment. So if you ever felt that desperate, and you got to see this when I do it at the recovery talks, they're all like, yeah, I've felt that way. Amen. And then they realize Jesus said it, and they go, oh, wow, there's like a sense of relief. I'm in good company. In the Garden of Gethsemane, and there's a story, remind me to remind you of Gethsemane at the end, because I always forget that part. But in his most desperate moment, he's crying out. And who hasn't had that prayer of crying out in our desperate moments? So you're in good company. And normally I don't get into it right away, but the group like this, we just get into it. Normally I tell a few jokes and try to do like an opening, and people say, sir, you're not talking about suicide. And what I'm doing is I'm deflecting. According to my therapist, I'm a deflector. Yeah, Wonder Woman, there you go. Linda Carter is my Wonder Woman. It's always, she'll always be my Wonder Woman, but for the kids, they have another Wonder Woman. That's it there. And actually, the picture on the right, one time I did a corporate event, and they said, can you use that picture instead of the other one because the Linda Carter picture was too racy. HR was in the building, and I got it. So I'll use whatever you want. You're the customer. We'll do it. But in the picture to the right, she's in full deflection mode because when something's coming from Wonder Woman's heart, like a bullet, she deflects. And when something's coming from my heart, what do? I deflect. I've been called out on it. My therapist said that. She goes, you deflect all the time. You try to use humor and get out of it. Now, Wonder Woman has this other tool. It's called the lasso of truth. She wraps it around the bad guy. It's always a guy, right? She wraps it around the bad guy, and he has to tell the truth. So without the benefit of the lasso of truth, I'll tell you how I went from that accounting major in school to a sales rep to a mental health advocate. How did that happen? How does someone take that path? Well, you take it the hard way. There's my family right there. We're outside of christening. My little brother's getting christened right there outside St. Paul's Church. It's a Catholic church in New York. That's me. My hair still sticks up like that. Sheila, Mark, me, Janice, Matthew. That's in order. The Gillen Five. And I was in college. Gosh, you start doing dates. 1983. Holy mackerel. I was a junior in college, and it was a Wednesday. I can remember this day like it was yesterday. And I had a test in every subject. You ever have one of those weeks in school? Remember that? Even they did that like in junior high to high school too. You're cruising along, and all of a sudden you have a test in every subject. Like, gosh darn it, this week's going to stink. I was in one of those weeks at West Virginia University. And I remember packing up my bag. I'm like, wow, this is going to be a long day. I have 2 tests the next day on Thursday, accounting and finance, both of my majors. I can't pass one of them. They're going to put 2 of them back to back. This is going to be a long night. And I started packing up my backpack. And I said, wow, this is going to be a long day because I'm going to go to my Wednesday classes. Then I'm going to go to the library, pull an all-nighter. You ever done that? That takes like a year off your life. You ever take a red-eye flight? That's a good idea. It's a horrible idea when you get home. So I'm going to pull an all-nighter. I actually packed a baseball hat because we all know, guys, that counts as a shower. We could put a hat on. It counts. A little deodorant. We can go a couple days. And I'm sitting there going, wow, this is going to be a long day. And then the phone rang, and the day got really long. It was that cute little girl in the blue dress, Janice, calling me saying, Dennis, you need to come home. And at West Virginia University in New York, I'm 8 hours from home. 8 hours. Oh, sweet, you brought a dog. Awesome, no worries, no worries, no worries. No worries whatsoever. 8 hours from home. And she's saying, Dennis, you need to come home. I'm like, Janice, I'm exactly where I need to be. What's up? And then I couldn't make out the rest of what she said. It was inaudible at this point. Mark died, car accident, in between tears and outbursts. That's what they told me. You all know why I'm here. Mark didn't die in a car accident. He died in a car, but it was no accident, right? I don't like to talk about means. I won't talk about means. All you have to know is Mark died by suicide. He battled depression for years. The disease state won, society lost. We lost big time. We lost a very smart young man. So I go home. I got that call on Wednesday. Go with me on this. Wednesday I get the call. I go out Wednesday night. Remember, I'm 20 years old, and the drinking age is 18. Does anybody want to guess what I did that night? Googie, googie, googie. That's the actual sound magnified 1,000 times. Google it. No, I just went out on a bender. So I go Thursday, go home. Friday, Saturday, we bury Mark. Sunday, hang out. Monday's another travel day. Tuesday, I'm back in class. It's like a long weekend. It's like Labor Day weekend if you think about it. That's how we handle things back then. Just go. Everyone go back to work. Go back to school. Be gone. I see heads nodding. Can we all agree that's a terrible way to handle a stressful life event like a death? Horrible. I went home and back in a flash. So I told you about the drinking age being 18. What do you think I did when I got back to college? Round 2. And I don't know what it is about the internet. The internet loves cats. I love dogs. But look at it. I love this picture. He's just like chilling with the Heineken. We weren't drinking Heineken because it was too expensive. We were drinking whatever we get our hands on. And it was cheap. It had to be cold. That's all. And I could see heads nodding. I think we all can agree that's a terrible, hey, come on in. That's a terrible, terrible response. Fair? A negative coping skill? Right? Here's why it's awful. Here's why it's awful. I wasn't the only one doing it. Remember the Gillen Five? It's me, Sheila's above, Mark now in heaven, Janice, and this little guy, Matthew. And 11 years after we lost Mark, 11 years. I'm now out of school. I don't know how I graduated because my grade point average and my blood alcohol were on the same number basically, right? One was going up, one was going down. You can guess what was. But 11 years later, I'm living in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, attending a good Lutheran church. I married a Lutheran at the time. And we're out there in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Pastor Don Seipel, if you know him. And then the phone rings again. It was a Monday. And it's my little sister on the phone again. Janice is on the phone, and I'm telling you, to this day, when Janice calls me, You know it. My heart skips a beat. I go, what's up? Like, and she goes, Dennis, everything's fine. I'm just calling to say hello. But on this day, she had to tell me some really bad news. In a drunken stupor with access to lethal means, I lost brother number 2 to suicide. Folks, I don't know how my parents did it. I'm just a brother. They're both deceased, but they stayed married for 61 years, which is incredible. Because often the death of a child, could split a family. They had to walk this twice. I now have 2 boys. I have no idea what they went through, but they went through hell. We all did, let's be honest. The whole family went through, and all the friends went through hell. There's a ripple effect when this happens. I forgot I put the slide in there. Was Matthew a good man? He was my best man. It was a no-brainer when I was getting married. Who are you going to pick for your best man? Matthew. Matt. He's it. And this is a little brother story. This is kind of a funny story. I got to lighten it up a little bit because this is the day of my wedding. The clock is not your friend when you get married. Right? It's really not. You're running around. Everything's late. All the pastors are like, yeah, tell me about it. You're out the, let's go. You're at the altar going, let's go. I got stuff to do, right? So Matthew and I go to lunch, and we have to go get photos and put this tuxedos on. I said, this is Matt and I. I said, Matt, do me a favor. Order something cold, like they can make it quick, like a sandwich. We're in a diner in Pennsylvania. Order something really fast. The kid ordered spaghetti. I was like, I'm going to kill you. I am going to kill you. Like almost on purpose. They got to boil the water. Here we go. So now after Matthew dies, I go back to Carla. What do? This is on here for shock value and shock value only. This is everywhere, folks. It's everywhere. And one time speaking in Columbia, South Carolina, right here, I spoke at a Mental Health America function. And substance use disorder, the guy went on stage before me. And he went to rehab 12 times, which means we never give up on people. Also, when I lived in Columbia, I used to speak at Transitions, the homeless shelter downtown. And I was there every Friday. It was kind of a cool gig because I used to travel, and then Fridays I was down there with those guys. But the first time I did it, I was super nervous. I had to unplug the TV. They were all watching TV. And I had to unplug it and then plug in my slides and go, we're going to talk about suicide prevention. They're like, what? The whole room was like, ready to take me out right there. That's how it started. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then I forgot this slide was in there. And I could see it coming up. And a lot of those folks are in transitions or some housing because of a substance use disorder. And my heart goes out to them. And if you ever dance with this devil, your family ever has, we never give up on people. Back to the guy who went to rehab 12 times. We never give up on people. He now helps other people. Back to transitions. I'm looking over, I say, oh, this slide's coming up. And I'm like, I don't know how they're going to receive it. And almost to a man, when the slide came up, they said, you didn't do that, did you? They're very vocal. They'll tell you what they think. And I was happy to report, I said, guys, I didn't do it. Just the opposite. I was driving back from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I had 4 hours in the car. And I don't know about you all, but in the car, you do some deep thinking. Deep thinking. And I was driving back, it's like, what am I going to do with my life? So I decided, I just lost brother number 2. Alcohol is a depressant. I'm depressed. Do I need to put gasoline on this fire? No. And this is where you want to check out the old man getting jiggy with the PowerPoint. You want to check out some of my PowerPoint skills? Look at this. Ooh. Okay, in case you missed it. Ooh. My son put that on there. It's animation, he says. Dad, you need some animation. But I decided to take a time out from drinking. And you owe me nothing. You got to imagine this slide goes over big at the colleges. The kids love this slide. They're like, hey, kids, don't drink. They're like, beat it, Grandpa. I got it. I know it. But this is one of the best moves I ever did. I decided to take a break. And then the break just kept going. And there's a God story in all this, too. During my sobriety, I used to take off for Lent and stop drinking, and you were Irish. My parents thought I was adopted. You're not my son. But during this break, I had a prayer with God. I just buried brother number 2, and I don't tell this story too often. We're in a church group. I don't recommend you bargain with God, but I was in no position at this point. And I kind of said a prayer. I don't think I can repeat here, but I was pointing at the sky going, I don't know what you want, but this is what I want. At the time, my ex-wife and I were having trouble conceiving a child. I thought you just had to wink at her and they got pregnant. You know, obviously there's a little more mechanics involved. And we're having trouble. And I made a deal with God. I said, I'm only like 2 or 3 weeks into this sobriety piece. I said, God, if we have a baby, I'll never drink again. Well, my son's 30. You can do the math. Shortly thereafter, we cleaned out my brother's apartment and we got pregnant. So it's been 31 years, 3 months, 11 days. Who's counting? I'm not counting, but I know the last day I got drunk. I know that day. It was the night before we buried Matthew. I know I got hammered that night. I went to the funeral hungover, and headache, all that fun stuff that comes with the hangover. Then when I cry, I get a headache again, so now I got 2 headaches on both spheres. And then I get super tired when I cry. I just get tired. It wears me out. But it has to wear me. I need to go to sleep after I cry. That's a nap after a good cry is perfect. You know, just ask Elijah. Just lay down and get a snack. You know, you're good. But I'm not counting. So I know that day. I know what today is. I did this in the car this morning. It's 11,426 days sober today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My fragile male ego appreciates that, but it's not about me. It's about you all. If you're going through something, try going through it sober. Just try. You owe me nothing. You owe me nothing. Just try it. I had a young girl one time write me a note from Kennesaw State University down near Atlanta. She wrote me a note. You know, they have to come to my talk often. It's often mandatory. They have to get credit. They have to swipe in and swipe out. Bing, 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 and they get credit. One day, all these kids were coming up to me and taking selfies after my talk. And I thought, wow, I'm kind of a big deal. And they said, sir, our psychology teacher said if we get a picture with the speaker, we get extra credit. Boop, there goes the ego, right? God, popped. But I got a nice little note from this girl on Instagram, and she goes, Dear Mr. Gillen, and this is how all my feedback starts, especially from the college kids. Dear Mr. Gillen, I didn't want to go to your talk. That's how it all starts. I usually write back, I didn't want to give it. We're even. Like, we're so cool. Like, we're so cool, it's not even funny. And then she says, I heard that part about not drinking, and now when my depression comes on, I don't drink, and it's made a world of difference. All right, one person heard it. There we go. Victory. So that was a good move for me. It was a good move. And now, like, there is a hump. I'll be honest with you. When you stop drinking, there's a huge hill to climb. I'm on the other side of it now. I'm fine with it. I have beers in my fridge right now because my kids come over. I'm the best designated driver on the planet. There's no further thirst for that. And it's kind of nice to be in this spot. I get invited to events all the time. I got to go see Notre Dame play Boston College when I lived in Chicago. Why do you think they invited me? My charming personality? No, they needed a driver. They gave me a free ticket. They bought me a hoodie sweatshirt. Nobody had a better day than I did. And I got them all back to the hotel. Now, the ride down there was great. The ride back, they weren't making much sense. But they thought everything was funny. And it wasn't. But I got them home. So there you go. Here's the other thing I did. I'm sober. I'm still depressed, right? It doesn't cure it all. And then I went and saw a professional. I went and saw a counselor. That was a good move. That was a great move. And I'll tell myself, when I went into counseling, I looked over my shoulder to see if anyone saw me going in the first time. Now I don't give a rat's for rent who sees me going in. I know what I got to do. In fact, when I lived in Columbia, there was a Lake Psychological on Two Notch Road. That's where I used to go before I moved to Greenville. Half my tennis team worked in that office. Like, I didn't care. I would walk in there and know half the staff. How you doing, Dennis? Good, good, good. See you in an hour. And I got to go in there. Our mental health is just as important as our physical health. Our physical health is just as important as our mental health, right? It's all the yin yang. It's all put together by brilliant design. Speaking of physical health, we're going to go over some examples. I put USA examples on there because I just spoke to an international audience. But your primary care provider, now if you go to the doctor, they may do a depression screening tool while you're there. I was recently at the doctor to get a physical. I'm not a big fan of getting a physical at my age because of this one test. All right, the finger's your clue. But we have to test it, right? No love from the women. Like, we deal with that all the time. Come on now. So I'm in there with the nurse, and she says, Mr. Gillen, I'm sorry, but I have to ask you these questions. Have you been depressed lately? Have you been sad? Now, she has no idea what I do for a living. This is my job. I go around with this foundation talking about suicide prevention. And I looked at her, I said, do me a favor, it's a teaching moment. Can you never apologize for asking that question? I know exactly what you're doing. You're doing a depression screening tool, and I want you to do it. And because some people who are suicidal, the only appointment they'll keep is with their doctor. They won't come out of the house, but they'll go see the doctor. That's a fact. We have data on that from 78% of folks who have seen a primary care physician the last 6 months before we lost them. So I looked at this nurse and I said, hey, do you have any resources? If someone says yes, she goes, not really. And at the time I was with the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, Jenny, and I went out to the car and I said, I'll be right back. Because after the nurse visits you and takes your vitals and the doctor comes in, you got like 4 hours, right? You got to read like the Better Homes and Garden from 1978. You got that time. So I did that. Also, where is it? 988. We're going to get into that a little bit. The 988 Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We were not, 5 years ago now that came across. It used to be that really long number, 800-273-TALK. It's now 988. It should be in every one of your phones. We lobbied hard for that. I pointed Jenny back there. We used to be on the same board at the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. They had a big voice in that lobbying effort. And it happened. So 988, it's an easy number to remember. Because you're in a crisis, you go, hey, what's the suicide prevention lifeline? 800-273, forget it. You're not going to remember it. 988, we can remember. And that was a huge victory. And I heard recently there's 2 call centers in South Carolina. There's one in Mental Health America at Greenville, and the Department of Mental Health runs one out of Charleston. And I heard some good news lately. They're over 80% of all the calls in South Carolina are answered in South Carolina. Because no matter where you are, you want them answered in your state. Because you want to match people with resources. So if they don't answer it, let's take those other 13% that don't get answered. I think they're at 87%. If they don't answer it, it could get routed through the system and you could end up in Nebraska. Still, with a loving, caring person, they just won't know where to send you. So it's important that we fund this stuff. It's important that we support these centers. If that's something you want to do, they're always looking for volunteers, always. Oh, come on in, no worries.
Am I in the right place? Is this Ruitans?
What is it?
Ruitans? Nope. You don't know what that word is? I'm in wrong.
But we have someone to tell you where to go. In a nice way. People always tell me where to go when I'm driving. I don't think I like it. No. So that's it. Yeah, that's there. So I want to talk to you a bit about the Bible, because we're in a church. There's 7 suicides in the Bible. And when I ask this question, I say, what's the most popular suicide? People always say, Judas. Everyone knows it. And think about it. He's fulfilling a prophecy. I get it. But, what an apostle he would have been. Seriously, he would have been on fire for Jesus, but he had a role to play. Because Peter denied Christ 3 times and went to Rome and met his fate, but he was on fire for Jesus. Judas could have been the same way, but we know what happened. But when I say like the first king of Israel died by suicide, people don't go, huh? Saul. Saul was appointed the first king, died in battle. And I get all these slides. There's some unknown characters there. Abimelech, that was, he had a rock dropped on him in the Bible. He was storming like a fort. Remember those old days, they had the big walls? And a woman dropped a rock on his head. And he didn't want to die at the hands of a woman. So he chose his own hand. It's a shame thing, to avoid shame. All these up there. Zimri was a bad guy. Samson knew exactly what was going to happen when he pushed those pillars. Ahithophel, that's another unknown one, but he planned it. He was an advisor to David, then went to go root for the son and gave the son some advice when the son rose up against David, and the son didn't take the advice. And he went home and said, I know exactly how this ends. And he died by suicide. But Judas is the number one answer. I got this from a group that called Soul Shop. Have you ever heard of this? Yeah, it's for faith leaders. It's training. It's a one-day training. Big fan. I took this when I was at the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. They came to town and they said, Dennis, go look at this thing. Go check it out and see if we should help it. I think that they partner now. There's funding for it. So I went over there, and I was a participant. I cried my eyes out. I thought it was the best training ever. You have to write a prayer with the word suicide in it. Who's ever done that? I don't think I ever did that. Now I do it all the time. But that's a wonderful program. If soulshopmovement.org. They've been in Columbia. South Carolina's had a lot of the training here. I see heads nodding. We've done a pretty good job here of getting this out. When they came here early, they're based out of Pittsburgh. Michelle Snyder's up there. Faye, who started it, now lives in Hendersonville. But we've done it. Now they have one for black churches, and they're working on other stuff. One of the best trainings I've ever been through. It's a day. We need to do more of them for faith leaders and anyone who touches someone in the church. Ushers, you name it, anybody. I'm a big fan of that one. Oh, look at this, the ELCA. This guy is a pro. He does his homework. I was just checking out your resources, and like Deborah, we talked about earlier, there's a lot of them. What shocked me about this one was you have a statement on the body of Christ and mental illness. And I love this line in the middle. This message puts to rest the notion that mental illness is an indicator of special sin in the family or the person suffering from it. It's a biological thing sometimes. If I walked in here with an insulin pump, all you guys would know my pancreas doesn't work so good and I got diabetes. But sometimes mental illness, my brain's not working so good, and the first clue would be maybe I have a breakdown or an attempt. That might be your first clue. But this is great. What blew me away about this, because I've been doing this for a while, was this number right here. 13 years ago, you all were looking at this, which tells me you're a very progressive church. Thank you for doing that. That's a compliment there. And probably even further back than that, you were talking about it. But this is the first thing I saw, 2012. Man, I started talking about my brothers in 2011. It took me 16 years to talk about them. And a year later, you guys are putting out statements, and you could download this on your website. I was so impressed by that. Like, yeah, you go. You go, Lutherans, you go. All right. I was at a Lutheran church now. It was ELCA, and it's kind of a funny story because my kids were at a school that was Missouri Synod. Every church has their little quirks, right? We all got them. Poor Methodists just went through it. We all got it, right? It happens. There's splits, divide. It's man trying to interpret the word, and we get it wrong a million times. So I'm in a church. It's a ELCA church in Batavia, Illinois. And how this worked was we would drop the kids off downstairs, and I would come up to a hall like this, fellowship hall, and we'd have donuts. And when the kids were done with church, they would come up, get the parents, and we'd all go in and worship. It was a great day. And every Sunday morning, I was so excited for donuts. I'm like, I'd skip breakfast. I'm like, yeah, this is my day. Sugar rush. I love it. And one day, I dropped the kids off, and I come upstairs, and there's no donuts. Yeah. I'm starving Marvin. I go, hey, where are the donuts? Oh, they said they're doing a community program upstairs. They took our donuts. See it. They took them, trying to get people to go upstairs, and I fell for it. I'm like, I love you guys. I'll go upstairs. I don't care what they're talking about. I need a donut. And I go up there and I get my donuts, and this woman walks in. And what do you think a guy who lost 2 brothers to suicide doesn't want to talk about? Guess what she wants to talk about? Suicide prevention. She runs the local 988 helpline. She walks in and she goes, hi, I'm Stephanie Weber. Today we're going to talk about suicide prevention. I'm sitting there like, oh no. Nobody in Chicago, remember I used to live in Pennsylvania. When Matt died, I moved to Chicago. And what did I tell the people in Chicago? Dennis, how many brothers and sisters do you have? What did I tell them? There's 3 of us. I couldn't talk about my brothers. It was my time in the desert. I just couldn't do it. I wasn't ready, wasn't ready. Walk around. This woman walks in. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I get out of this? Now, if I stood up and walked out, everybody in that room would have known Dennis has a problem with suicide. There's a story there. Plus, I had a great seat right next to the donut table. And I wasn't giving that up. I'm like, I could reach over. Maple Frosted was like right there. I still remember that. I can't remember my wife's birthday, but I can remember that. I wasn't going to do it. So I sat there. And on the way out, I grabbed her card. And I said, I'm going to call her and volunteer for the helpline. Now, do you ever do this stuff like you say you're going to do it and then you don't do it? Just me? Mr. Passive Aggressive, I'm like, I'll do that. And I put her card on my desk. I didn't throw it out, but I put it on my desk. I was like, when I'm ready, I'm going to call her. Next week. Next week. Probably next week. Seriously, like 9 to 10 months go by, and the card is now turning yellow. And I'm like, I got to call her. So I call her up. Her name's Stephanie Weber. I said, Stephanie, my name is Dennis Gillen. You came to my church about a year ago. This is my story. And guys, you always got to keep the women in your life happy. This is what she said to me. She goes, Dennis, get your butt in here. See, she lost her mom to suicide. I lost 2 brothers, and she said, who better to answer the phones than somebody that's walked that walk? Please come in here. Now, they don't assign you right away. They don't assign you like to the desk. You have to go through 12 weeks of training every Wednesday night. It was brutal. There was some tough subjects. You got to imagine the subjects they're dealing with, these desperate souls. Or there'd be a night of domestic abuse. Like, oh, that was a tough night. Child abuse, that was brutal. And then they'd end up on this one Saturday. It was called Suicide Saturday. They got to come up with a better name. It was brutal. But the whole day we went over those folks who are facing desperate souls who may be contemplating suicide. And I remember, this is back in the day, it wasn't PowerPoint, we had binders. And I still have my binder this day, and all the pages have tears on them because I cried that entire day. I cried that entire day. Every page, I saw Matt and Mark, every page, and this could happen. I'm like, that happened. I missed it. So my whole entire binder is tear stained, but I did get assignment finally. That's the old number. But I got an assignment, and I want to tell you about one of the calls. Thursday nights from 8 to 12 was my shift, which cracked my sister up because she said, Dennis, you can't stay up past 10. Says, hold on, I could do it. I'd stay up. I'd get home about 1 o'clock in the morning, debrief and all that stuff. And then Friday, you could just power through it. And then I'd go to bed at 7:30 Friday night. I could do that, right? So one night I get a call from this kid, Kyle. But before I get into the start of the slide, I want to show you this depression slide. That was me after Matthew died, upper left. That's me. Couldn't get out of bed. If I got out of bed by noon, it was a good day. Thank God I had a patient employer that said, when you're ready, let us know. It took about 2 to 3 weeks to say, I'm ready. I had to get out of the house. They were very patient. But if you saw me on the street, that's me, happy, Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky. How you doing, Dennis? I'm living the dream. That's my answer for everything. How you doing? Living the dream. And then when someone probes further, they go, oh, I wish I was living the dream. And then I hit them with the reality, and I say, nightmares are dreams too. And then they back away and leave me alone. It's kind of nice. But it's true. Nightmares are dreams gone awry. So we need to take off that happy face, and we're feeling like that, we need to tell people. We need to tell people. I need to stop doing that. How you doing? Living the dream. I got to tell you exactly how I'm doing. Some days good, and some days not so good. So Kyle, let me tell you about the kid on the slide. We often mask our emotions, but every now and then we let them out. And this kid, Kyle, called the helpline. And you can do this, by the way. You can call for a friend. You're allowed to call if you need advice. I'm dealing with this person. I need some help. They'll take that call. Kyle calls up and says, sir, I have a friend who may be suicidal, and he's sending me text messages that aren't so good. I said, Kyle, do you have an example? Now, he had the luxury of reading it. Let me know if you hear it. This text message said, Kyle, you've been a good friend. Did anyone hear it? Past tense, you've been a good friend. You have been a good friend, a contraction. That's backward thinking. So as we're on the phone, we're talking to him, I'm telling him, it's like telemedicine. I'm telling him all we have, the resources, everything we can do. And he goes, sir, I just got another text message. I said, Kyle, what does it say? And this message said, Kyle, I'll see you from the other side. Whoop, the meter just went up. Now we got a hot one, and I don't have the kid I need on the line. I got his very good friend, Kyle. And we all need to be like Kyle. Kyle picked up a vibe. Now this kid may have been texting a lot of other kids. But Kyle picked it up. So I told Kyle everything I knew to tell him, activate your network, don't take this on as you. Yes, you can call the police. He's out in Chicago somewhere. We live in a city of 10 million. We need to find him. He's not home, blah, blah, blah. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. Go. Activate the network. Let me know what happens. About 15 minutes later, Kyle calls back and says, sir, he's not picking up the phone. And this is where my ADHD becomes my friend. Every day I struggle with it. When I'm looking for my car keys or I forgot something, it's not fun. I start something and I start something else. But this time it worked. I said something I shouldn't have said. I said, Kyle, give me the phone number. I should not have said that because at the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, there's no outgoing phone calls allowed. It's a rule. They want them all coming in, which makes sense. I don't want to. You don't want someone on the phone talking about recipes or their fantasy football league. You don't need that. But I broke the rule. I said the number. I got the number, and it took me all of 2 seconds to figure out what to do. I dialed it. I'd rather beg for forgiveness in this situation than ask for permission. And I dialed it, and the kid picked up. He's alive. Yay. And first of all, he was mad. Who gave you my number? Blah, 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 blah. We got past that. I said, it's just someone who loves you. I'm no rat. I'm not going to tell you. Someone loves you. What's going on? And then we talked. And we talked. And we talked. About an hour and a half. Now, I don't know if you I have 2 boys now, which is kind of funny. I lost 2 brothers. I have 2 boys. I don't know if you ever talked to boys on the phone. It's short. I used to drive carpool when I lived here. That kid went to Dentville Middle School or something. I think it's Dentville, whatever. I would have to drive down from Blythewood, go get him, and come back. And we would rotate with families. And 3 boys in the car. I go, hey, how was school? Good. What was your favorite part? Gym. 20 more minutes of this, right? One day, a neighbor said, can you pick up my daughter? I said, absolutely. Threw the 3 knuckleheads in the back, got the girl in the front. She told me everything that was going on in that school. It was awesome. Like, you got to come like once a month because those guys would give me nothing. So back to this phone call. Me and a young man on the phone. 90 minutes later, we hung up. Now, I use that term liberally, like we talked. On the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, they teach you to listen. Listen. He talked. And every now and then they go, what else is going on? Just prompting these open-ended questions and let him go. And as far as he can go until he gets tired, like it's kind of like fishing. Let him go until he gets tired and reel him in. And then finally, I didn't have to reel him in. He came up with the solution. He owned it. He said, I'm going to tell my parents everything. I'm like, that's probably a good idea. Because it's often not one thing. There was a girlfriend issue. There was a school issue. All this other stuff. It was a pile-on. Now back to that phone call, I didn't offer any solutions. I just listened. I was a sounding board at that time. And the star of that whole slide is Kyle. Because I never know what happened to that kid, but I know I got the Chicago Tribune and I checked the obituaries as long as I lived out there. Never saw his name. Never saw it. But Kyle is the star. Kyle picked up the vibe. Kyle had his radar on and said, my friend's not doing so hot. So what we're going to do now is go over some risk factors and warning signs. Risk factors and warning signs. So we could pick up the vibe. Risk factors. These are hard for me to look at. You all can read them. I'm not going to read them verbatim because I could check a couple of these boxes. Look at family history of suicides right there. Ugh. Lost a job. Had that a million times. Death, we had that. Divorce, I had one of those. I'd rather have my gum scraped, So all those boxes I could check does not mean that Dennis Martin Gillen, you're going to die by suicide. It means Dennis Martin Gillen, you better be on your A game when it comes to your mental health. Because I got a couple of these. I have to be on my A game when it comes to my brain health. And I'm okay with that, to tell you the truth, because I want to be on my A game when it comes to my mental health. I want to be there. I don't want to get lax, because I know I'm in a high-risk group because of all this stuff. And then I put on their pandemic. It feels like 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago. It feels like 20 years ago. It's only 5 years that we had that. And in 2020, actually, suicides went down. 2019 and 2020, they went down. those 2 years. So we can do it. We can prevent suicides. We need to talk about it by talking about mental health. 2 years it went down. And then 21 it went up, 22 it went up, 23 went up. We're back over pre-pandemic levels. We need to talk more about it. That's a fact. So that's in there. So you guys, I'll send these slides out. Talking about it. Now we're going to transition to warning signs. Talking about it. People may talk about it. A text message, by the way, counts as talk for the kids, especially the kids. Kyle picked up a text message and called us. So that's communication. And you take it all seriously and listen without offering fixes. I think my wife put that on there. Because whenever she has a problem, I have an awesome solution. I'm a fixer. She'll get off the phone, oh, my boss is a pain in the neck. I'm like, you want me to beat him up? Like, stupid solutions, right? Stupid stuff. I'll say that. So now, at the Gillen household, this is what we do. And by the way, funny little story. I told you I had a divorce. I'm remarried. Both my wife's names are Christine. This one is Christine 2.0. All the bugs, fixes, all the upgrades. Now, I say that knowing full well that I'm somebody's 1.0. so they may have upgraded, got some bugs that worked out too. I get it, right? So now with Christine, she'll get off the phone, she goes on a rant, and I have to listen to her rants because I rant too, right? Grace, both ways. And then she'll go, before she gets into it too heavy, I go, Christine, do you want a solution or a sounding board? What do you think she picks 99% of the time? Sounding board. Exactly. She wants a sounding board. And the sounding board part is, it's the way to go. It's been a key to this marriage 2.0. It's been awesome. And then I have to hug her. I don't mind that part, but this is the part that's hard. I have to hug her, that's easy, but then I have to keep my solution to myself because it's awesome. I know it's awesome. I just have to hug her and go, that's because you care and you're a loving person. And then I have to bite my tongue and say, Dennis, don't say it. Your solution's good. It's the best solution ever. Keep it to yourself. If you ever want to hug her again, zip it. And I have to zip it. And I do. I'm learning every day. So they'll talk about it. And if someone never jokes about it, they may joke about, oh, better off dead, whatever. I take all those seriously. I had a question recently, I was being interviewed, and someone said, when do you know whether they're joking or not? And I just erred to the side of caution. I said, I take them all 100% serious because of what we've been through. So when someone jokes about it, like I'm in a social setting, I get right in their face and go, you can't say that about you. No, I don't do that. No. I save that for Twitter. No, I don't do that. And the reason I don't do that is because nobody buys in an argument. I can't get in somebody's grill and say, you can't talk like that. I lost 2 brothers. They're not going to hear that. But what I will do at an appropriate time, if we're in a social setting, I'll pull them aside. If I see them alone, I said, earlier you joked about dying by suicide. Is everything okay? Now right there, they know you're a safe person. Do you feel the temperature drop in that conversation? Woo, here we go. And maybe everything is okay, but they also know now that you're a person they can go to when things aren't okay. So that's a private conversation. And that's how I handle that stuff. So the other one is behaviors, substance abuse. Well, we talked about that, and I'm not pointing any fingers because 3 of them are pointing right back at me. Just be careful. If you see someone going on a bender or something's going on, it's not so much the substance abuse, it's the trauma that followed that earlier. So what we tend to say to people, like, not, what's wrong with you? That's a terrible thing to say to someone. What you say to them is, what happened to you? Like, talk to me. Talk to me. The drinking and the drugs, I get it. Yeah, all right. Let's go before that. And usually it's trauma informed. There's something occurred that drove them into the bar. Trust me, I've been there. Sleep. Now that I'm sober and seeing a counselor and all that good stuff, when something's going on in my world, I don't sleep very well. Anyone else? Oh my gosh. I could tell something's going on in my world when I'm not sleeping well. Last night, I slept like a log. I woke up in the fireplace. No, that's a joke. Come on, is this mic on? All right, just check it. No, last night was rough because the dog, and I knew how to get down there, the dog was up and down. That's not good. But I'll give you some tips on sleep. These 3 tips will help you immensely. All right, I may add a 4th one here because we're onto this new magnesium glycinate. That helps amazing for sleep. But first one, the room has to be dark. You got to wear a mask or blackout shades however you do it, make the room dark. Your light, your brain turns on from photo. It's very photosensitive. Light hits, brain goes, hey, we're up. That's why we get up in the morning. That's where the sun rises. Be careful with that. The other one is the room has to be cold. It's nice now. God, we had frost on the windshield this morning in Greenville. I saw penguins flying south. Thank you for getting that joke. They were walking. No, but it's getting chilly now, so it's kind of nice. You can open the windows. But when you open up the windows, you hear the neighbors, right? And the dogs and all that good stuff. So you get a white noise machine. Anyone sleep with a fan or Last night, this is why I didn't sleep so good. Last night our internet went out and we have a Google Home and we say, hey Google, play white noise. You know that little thing that spies on you? You know that little thing? We have that. I say, hey Google, play white noise, and it plays it. And last night the internet went out and it stopped. And I woke up because I could hear stuff now. So cold, dark, some form of white noise. Those three tips have helped. And then I'm going to throw in that magnesium. It's glycinate. Be careful. Magnesium has like a lot of different forms. It's the Glycinate. Glycinate or glycinate? Awesome. Awesome stuff. All right, behaviors, reckless, withdrawal, isolation. People will pull and walk away from you. And a stick alone can be broken by a child, but a stick in a bundle cannot be broken. That's why I think the church is a great bundle. We need to get people back in the pews. It's a great bundle because people will know when something's going on, especially if you're in a small group or something. Especially if we hear the choir practicing over there. If someone doesn't show up for choir practice, they know. They know something's going on. If someone was supposed to be here today and they said, I'm coming, and they're not here, call them up. Say, hey, we did that thing today. You weren't there because we're in a bundle. And who doesn't want a friend like that? Seriously, you weren't there. I missed you. That's a good friend. So a stick alone can be broken by a child. A stick in a bundle cannot be broken, and sometimes I need the bundle to go get the stick. Okay, the comment was a return visit to church. I'm doing this for the audio portion. A return visit, if someone's been missing for a while and comes back, don't go, hey, where you been? Walk out, have that conversation, let the temperature drop and say, hey, good to see you back. How's everything going? There may be a reason they were gone. Are we getting a thumbs up? That's good. You're on your own. And then cleaning out and saying goodbye. I learned on Facebook Messenger years after Mark died. Mark was my first brother. Years after Mark died, a friend reached out on Facebook Messenger and said, hey, the day your brother died, he came to my house. And he pulled in the driveway. She opened the door to let him in, unlocked it. He backed out and left. Now, we just lived up the street, so she thought he forgot something. This is way before cell phones. And she just thought, oh, he'll be back. He never came back. That was the day. That was October 26, 1983. That was the day. We just had the anniversary. That was the day. If he gets out of the car, if Mark gets out of the car and says, I'm not doing so hot, you all have another speaker today. Guarantee. Knowing what we know now, we would have sold our house and lived in a van down by the river to get that kid help. So sometimes, when I do this talk, I'm only talking to two people. Two big buckets, and everybody falls in one or the other. One, you may be around somebody in a mental health crisis. The other bucket is it may be you. And I've been in both buckets. It may be you. Life may come at you hard, and you're in that bucket that everyone's worried about. When Matt died, everybody was worried about me. Fact, all my friends are like, are you okay? Fact, I was in that bucket. I was worried about me. I felt vulnerable for the first time in my life. So that's it. Take your head on a swivel, and if it's you, raise your hand. Raise your hand. There's books over there on self-care. I saw the table. Self-care is not selfish. We say it almost like a throwaway line, but it's a great line. Self-care is not selfish. The other example every therapist uses, you can't pour from an empty cup. Right? And this happened for the first time in a long time. It happened to me. Somebody called me up and said, hey, I know somebody who lost someone to suicide. Can you talk to them? I 99.9% say yes, absolutely. This one time recently, I said no. You know why? I wasn't doing so hot. We had lost a guy in my fraternity. When I was at college, he died by suicide, and he didn't call me, and I was bummed, and it threw me into a funk, and I'm in this funk, and they go, can you help this person? I can't help you when I'm in a funk. I really can't. I could say yes and then deliver a horrible care. You know, I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, but I just can't deliver anything. I'm not any of those, but I can't even pick up the phone. So I said, no, I'm not in a good place right now. And I thought, I hung up the phone, like, wow, that's never happened. And then in a weird way, I was proud of myself for recognizing that, not now, I'll come back. If you need me later, say the word. So self-care is not selfish. And then finally, you can read this. This is moods. The key is to look for changes. The guy that told us those 3 sleep tips, you know, the dark, cold, and white noise, he also said we had 3 brains. So it's a neuroscientist I saw speak. 3 brains based on nerve endings, and nerve endings alone. One obviously up here, packed. Your heart has a lot of nerve endings. Your gut has a ton of them. And every now and then you got to go with your gut. Something's going on. Women's intuition is a real thing. I learned that raising 2 boys. My wife goes, something's off with the boys. I'm like, they're fine. Something was off with the boys. I listened. I learned to listen. Go with your gut. And I'd rather you step in before they step out. I'd rather you embarrass yourself and ask somebody if they're suicidal. I'd rather you do that than get the phone call and said, I need someone to do a eulogy. Would you do it? You want to trade phone calls? Any day. Any day. Any day. Key. And this one, this is the BS suicide. It's not the BS you're thinking about. It's blindside suicide. Blindside. I've heard way too many moms, way too many brothers, way too many sisters, way too many fathers who were really close to the person that everything was good. There was a mom who came up there, I was speaking in Michigan, and she said, my son, we were packing to go on vacation, and we were leaving for Hawaii the next day. He died that night. Who doesn't want to go to Hawaii? Never been. I'd love to go. They have a trip the next day. They didn't go. He's no longer with it. So I've heard too many. So the blind, so check on your happy friends. That's what this slide is for. And I'm not big on social media. You know, I'm not an influencer. But every now and then I pop this slide up there and people connect with it. They will repost the crap out of this thing. It's crazy. This thing takes off. For me, a little guy, repost, comments go through the roof, and next thing you know, it's got like 1,000 hits, which is, for me is a lot. Like, wow, that happened. This is the slide that does it. This is the slide, because we got to check on your happy friends too, because he's smiling inside, you know, smiling on the outside, but inside, not so good. No bueno. And I've been guilty of that myself, so check on your happy friends. All right, brief word about Satan. I was in a Bible study here in Blythewood, South Carolina, not too far from here, and we had an eclectic group of guys my age, but different churches, and this Pentecostal guy came up, and he wasn't speaking in tongues, which was good. I can hear him. It happens. There was no one to interpret it. You know, I have to have 2. It happens. And he says, Dennis, you got to be careful. The devil's coming after you. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you're talking about suicide. It's like one of his greatest tools he's got. He's a liar. He's a deceiver. And you're going into these schools and saying, don't do it. I said, dude, you got a bullseye on your back. He goes, I sell computers. He doesn't care about me, but you are in the arena. I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. When I was raised Catholic, we got the bulletin. We didn't read the Bible, we read the bulletin. We want to see who won bingo. That's all. What's for hot lunch this week? That's about it, right? He's right, but Satan is a deceiver. He's a liar. He's a liar. And I think when you're alone, he lies to you. I think when my brothers were alone, he was in their heads, telling them these deceitful, little, clever lies. You're a loser. You're all alone. Nobody likes you, which is pure bull crap. That's him. That's him. And he comes after me all the time. And he's a liar. And it's funny, because after that guy said, Dennis, he's coming after you, literally months later, my marriage blew up. Like, he'll pick you off. He'll try. He's on the prowl. And he's a murderer. And I'm telling you, these are, Jesus speaking, He's a murderer, and I can't think of a worse murder than self-murder. Suicide, the grief that comes with it. If he tricks you into that, it's brutal. He wins. He wins. We can't let him win. We can't let him win. So I think I have it up here. The next slide. A brief word. The best advice I heard about this, I don't know if I put it on there. When Satan comes at me, and he comes at me hard, when he comes at me, I quote Jesus. Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me. I ain't time for this. Get behind me. Or when he was tempted by the devil. Away from me, Satan. Away from me. And I literally say that out loud sometimes. I mean, like, he's come at me hard. Maybe I should quit this foundation. Oh, I lost a gig. This guy's not paying me. Blah, blah, you should quit. Go back to work, corporate. Blah. And he's coming at you. I say, get away from me, Satan. I'm telling you that one little line, or get behind me, just whatever version you want to say it and say it out loud. If he's coming at you, it works. And then put on the armor of Jesus Christ and go forward. It's crazy how that works. And then the other advice, I'm going to give you advice from Jesus and advice from my therapist. And sometimes Jesus is my therapist. We're talking, but the best advice I've ever heard from a therapist is a friend of ours. It wasn't my therapist. You know who gave me this advice. Jennifer Butler told me this one time. Treat yourself like a child. And Jesus loved the children, right? So the treat yourself like a child advice is if you screw up, and we all do. Thanks, God. yes, God. For those watching the video, we have choir practice next door. They opened the door and it sounded awesome. That'll chase Satan right out of this room. Here we go. The best advice, treat yourself like a child. If my son screws up, I will coach him up. I say, all right, not your finest moment. You're better than this. You got this. When I screw up, that conversation's way different. Dennis, you're an idiot. I can't believe you did that. Nobody likes you. You are such a loser. I'm serious. These are conversations that we have. We beat ourselves down. We pummel ourselves. So I started treating myself like a child. Greatest advice ever. All right, Dennis, not your finest moment. You need to go in that kitchen and apologize to that little girl because she's the best thing ever happened to you. You need to get right. You're better than this. I'm coaching myself up. Oh my gosh, where was his advice when I was 12? Right? All that stuff that went on. Treat yourself like a child. If I was babysitting a kid and he spilled milk, I'd clean it up. All right, well, got it, no problem. I'm home and I spilled the milk. You loser. Right? Isn't that terrible? I see heads nodding. Come on, not your finest moment. Let's get this milk. There's more cows out there. They'll make more. Clean it up, right? Let's go. Unbelievable advice. That has changed my life. That right there. I stopped being my own worst enemy. Kind of like myself now. Most days. Oh, here we go, Jenny. Here we go. We just finished the walk season. Jenny Morales is here with the American Federation of Suicide Prevention. I was on the board with her. And actually, I did a walk, a couple of them. I was the board chair one time. But the very first walk I did, I signed up. I was on the walk committee. And it was like, these walks were in the fall, and it was somewhere around September. And this woman comes up to me, she goes, you're on the committee and you haven't done much. Mr. Passive Aggressive, I'll sign up. I sat there, I ate a donut. There's a theme here. I drank a water and I would leave. So one day she comes up to me and she says, can you do something? So that night I went home. On the donor site, you're allowed to personalize it. You ever do a fundraiser, you get to tell your own story? I finally sat down and said, I'm going to personalize my page. And I poured my heart out. And I wrote this loving essay about my brothers. And I basically I remember how I started it. I said, you may know me, but you don't know this. And I just blew it up. So this is it. I lost 2 brothers. I just poured out my heart. It was divine intervention. I just typed it. God spoke it. I said, this is what happened. And at the bottom of the form, it said, hit send. And it says, do you want to send this to your contacts? I'm like, I don't know that many people. I'm trying to raise money. The walk's like 2 weeks away. Bam, I hit send. But Gmail counted everybody you sent an email to as a contact. This is 20, anybody I ever sent an email to as a contact. So I'm sitting there going, wow, my computer's slow. And then it says, congratulations, you sent out 1,738 emails. I'm like, what? If I went to like info@southcarolinaparks.org, they got it. Everybody got it. And it's crazy because I'm freaking out. I had to call my parents up. They got it. They didn't know I was doing the walk. My sisters, I had to call them up. One sister, go for it. The other sister, not a happy camper because it's our family secret. It's our family shame. What are you doing? I'm doing this walk. Why? It was rough. As I'm going through these conversations, calling my family members, they had it tied into your, every time you got a donation, I got a text message. Bing, 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 bing. I think I raised $9,800 off that one letter. I didn't ask anybody for it. Like, the letter did, but I didn't go around soliciting. $9,800. But I ran into people, they come up to me and they'd say, hey, Dennis, I got that note. And I'd say, you weren't supposed to. It's Al Gore's fault. He invented the internet, not my fault. But they'd say, I got that note. And then they would tell me their story. This actually happened in the Publix one time. I'm in the supermarket. This lady goes, I didn't know that about you. And then she told me, I lost my first husband to suicide. I didn't know that about you. So the minute I started sharing and let down my guard, these wonderful people like you all flowed in. It was crazy. So they asked me to speak at the walk. They said, Dennis, you're the top fundraiser. Can you use 5 minutes? I said, sure, I'll do 5 minutes. I think I could do it. Wrong. Right before I went on, they took the microphone. This one was a smaller venue. They took the microphone and they handed it out, and everybody said the name of the loved one they lost. My mom and dad came to my house. My mom came to the walk. My dad said, this is as far as I go. And I get it. You brought mom, we're fine. I get it. Dad, we'll be back in a couple hours. I got you. So I watched my mom take the microphone and pass it. She couldn't say Mark and Matthew. When you're grieving, you're all over the board. I get it. Totally get it. Then as the microphone's coming around, I'm watching it, and people are saying the names of the loved ones. I just moved to Columbia, so I don't know these names. I'm pretty good. The microphone comes down. I'm up next. I'm tracking it. And then this woman takes the microphone and goes to pass it around this little kid. And he's having no part of it. And he grabs her arm. She literally extended it, and he goes, I'm watching it. And he goes, my daddy. I started crying. I didn't know all those names, but I know my daddy. I know my sister. I know my brother. I know my daughter. I know my son. I know my aunt. I know my grandma. I know those people. So I literally had sunglasses on. I'm crying my eyes out. And they go, ladies and gentlemen, our featured, our top fundraiser, Dennis Gillen. It was like, bleh. It was awful. I couldn't even look over where that little kid was. I couldn't look over to that side. And I got out of there. I saw him on the way out. I tripped him. No, don't you ever do that again. No, I grieved. I just grieved because that's what it meant to him. That's why we have to get cool talking about mental health. And I never want to hear my daddy again. You know what I'm saying? That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this stuff. And the food's here. That's even a good sign. So I did another walk. Nikki Haley was our governor at the time. This is the 10th anniversary of the walk. And I don't care what your politics are. I really don't care. I lobby for mental health. Jenny lobbies for mental health. We don't care politics. As long as you want to fund mental health, we love you. Let's go. DRI, I don't care. What are you doing with mental health dollars? Are you going to help us out? Let's do it. So Nikki Haley comes. She does a great job. She brought her husband who was in the military, does a great speech, awesome speech. Her daughter, this is when the kids were little. One of the daughters was cheerleading for the runners or walkers. She showed up. She really did. So no matter what your politics are, if the number one office holder comes to something you care about, you go say thank you. That's me telling Nikki Haley thank you. That's my son Brendan. We went over and said thank you. Can we get a picture? She was my second favorite person to see that day. Don't tell her that. The guy in the pink shirt was my first. He comes up to me. I'm handing out these beads, and they're color-coded. Their orange means I lost 2 siblings. They had these beads at the table. I had to give my mom 2 white beads, which means she lost a child. It was awful. And then this guy comes up to me and goes, are you Dennis Gillen? I said, yeah. He goes, I heard you on the radio. Now I'm all in. I went from Mr. I don't want to do this to I'm doing this. I did a radio interview on ETV radio. which is kind of weird because it's an ETV, it's a radio station. It's our NPR station, right? And they had that building over by the football stadium, Williams-Brice. I go there on a Thursday, and I tape this thing on a Thursday afternoon, and I asked the guy, I think I'm kind of a big deal now. I'm like, when do you air this? He goes, we air this particular segment Sunday mornings at 6:30. I'm like, wow, I need a better agent. That's a terrible time slot. No one's going to hear it. This guy heard it. He comes up to me, he goes, are you Dennis Gill? And I said, yes, I am. He goes, I heard you on the radio. I'm like, really? You're like one of two people. He goes, we're both from New York. We both live in South Carolina. And he says, we both lost 2 brothers to suicide. Whenever you think you're alone, you're not alone. Whenever you think you're on the island of misfit toys all by yourself, you're not. Does anybody get that reference? The island of misfit toys? What's it from? Rudolph? Rudolph. Love it, right? There they are. We're going to go around the horn, just yell it out. If you know why this toy was on the island, just shout it out. All right? The first one is super easy. That one. Polka dots. I heard it. Yell it loud. Water pistol. Squirts jelly. Jelly. Grape. You're on the right track, though. Grape, jelly. We're there. Choo-choo. Square wheels. There we go. The boat. I'm a boat that doesn't float. It sinks, right? Yeah, that's exactly it. This guy should be a Jack in the Box, but that's not his name. What is his name? Charlie. Bingo. Big brain on the hat. You got it. Exactly. How about this one? A bird. The bird doesn't fly. The bird swims. Exactly. This is my crowd. I put this up at a college one time. We're right over their heads. Just because it's not on TikTok doesn't mean it didn't exist, right? I'm a cowboy that rides a ostrich. Bingo. This is my people. And then we get to the middle one, a dolly for Sue. What was her deal?
She could cry. Was that?
Well, what'd you say?
I thought it was she could cry, but it was something she could be.
Oh, she could cry. She cried a lot. I'm going to cry thinking about this. Why did she cry a lot? Who cries a lot? Somebody who's depressed. I heard Arthur Rankin, remember this came on, it said Rankin Bass when you were a kid? Arthur Rankin in an interview said, we put a dolly for Sue on there. That's her name, a dolly for Sue. We put a dolly for Sue on there. She was rejected by her first owner. She's on the island for psychological reasons. Mental health. 1968. If they could talk about this crap in 1968, we could talk about it in 2025. That was absolutely brilliant. A dolly for Sue. I was at a gig one time, and the sound guy had this lapel microphone on. I took the lapel microphone on, and the sound guy comes up. He goes, hey, that dolly for Sue story, I Googled it. You were right. Like, what do you think, I lie about it? I heard it. I actually researched it after. That's why. That's brilliant move, brilliant move. This is it. This says it all right there. A shared joy is a double joy. A shared sorrow is half a sorrow. That is printed on the back of my business cards. If you get anything out of today, take this and put this up somewhere. It's on my card. Come get it at the table. A shared joy is a double joy. A shared sorrow is half a sorrow. That's where we get our name. When you share your sorrow, you cut your sorrow in half. Every time I talk about my brothers, I cut it in half. In half. In half. Will I ever get to 0? No, there's always a remainder. Remember, and that's okay. That means my brothers were significant to me. I miss them. It's an old Swedish proverb. They're good for Volvos, Swedish fish, and this saying right there. All right. That's our little foundation. You can help me out. Let me know. This is a purple. I was in Entrepreneur Magazine, by the way. I'm not bragging, but I am. Entrepreneur, they have an article in the back that says, what inspires you? And I was reading it in the conference room at work, and I said, what inspires me? And my purple folder inspires me. I have a folder on my desk, in my office, with anybody who's ever heard my talk and give me a compliment, like that girl from Kennesaw State who said, I don't drink anymore. That's in there. I got a card from my mom in there. She said, Dennis, I'm proud of the man you became. She did not write that card when I was a teenager. That card would have said, like, move out, please move out, right? Let's be honest. Anything that's in there. So I got a call, I wrote the article, I got a call back that said, we accepted your article. You're going to be in the January, 2022 issue. That's Jimmy Fallon, and that's me. We're like best friends now. And the photographer calls up. She says, can you take a picture of you holding a folder from the chin down? She must have saw my face. I got a face made for podcasts, I guess, maybe. So she goes, take the photo, and she goes, Mr. Gillen, I'm glad they picked your article. When someone says that in the work I do, that's a compliment. It's also an invitation. She wants me to ask her a question, and I'm going to oblige her. I said, Judith, thank you for that. Why are you glad they picked my article? She said, Mr. Gillen, I lost my mom to suicide. See, you never know who you're talking to. I can't even tell that story without crying. You never know who you're talking to. Random as can be. The photo editor from Entrepreneur Magazine is going to call you. And she's been impacted like I've been impacted. So there you go. This is the Camel Hat Club. I have some camel hats for the dudes. Dudes only. Sorry, ladies. It's a guy club. It's a guy club. I stole it from the ladies, by the way. My mom was part of that Red Hat Society. That thing was awesome. My mom was a classic. God bless her. She was a classic. She was like 82 years old when she told me this. She died at 86. She's 82. I said, Mom, how's the Red Hat thing? Because I'm thinking about doing something for men. She goes, I like it, but it's nothing but old people. She's 82. She goes, they go out way too early. They went to like dinner at 4, then went to a movie. They were home by 7:30. She goes, they eat too early. Nothing but old people. I'm like, Mom, what's old when you're 82? What's old? But she loved it. They go out, they have a meal, and they go see a movie. And there's no like, we're not going to clean the highway. They did all that stuff already. They made the brownies when the kid forgot that morning. They did all that stuff. They serve. This is just a social thing. I said, wow, men need that. So I formed the Camel Hat Club. And this is us during COVID. Does anybody want to, it's hard to see, but does anyone want to see why I catch a lot of crap for this photo? Oh, there's your clue. Uh-oh. He's wearing a Clemson hat and a Gamecock sweatshirt. When I go to Nebraska, nobody knows this. Nobody freaks out. I was in a meeting with a bunch of dudes here in Columbia. It was a bunch of construction workers, and some guy picked up on it right away. He goes, that picture's wrong. You can't do that. He was like really mad. He was going to get up and leave. I said, I like them both. You can't. All right, here's a better picture. That's us now. We got our official hats now. And when I do that's my group. We meet every first Thursday of the month. We meet at Maple Street Biscuit. We pick the same place once a month. We tried it once a week, but it was too much. Once a month, we get together. These are guys that I met in my apartment building when I was going through a divorce. I met a guy downstairs. Hey, we should go for breakfast one day. So all right, let's invite a couple other guys. That was 7 years ago. I love this day. We just get together because I'm in the club. I say, how's your mental health, everybody? Because I'm in it. And that's what we should end the conversation with that. One day this guy showed up, Nick, and he didn't look so good. And this is how guys talk to each other. We said, Nick, you don't look so good. We just say it, right? You look like crap. I think that's what we said. And he was, well, I'm going through a divorce. And at that point, two of us said, well, how can we help you? Because we've been there. We've been there. So I told him, I play a lot of tennis. I said, you got to come over and visit at the Croc Tennis Center. It's the name of the tennis center. They have this Croc 101. You can learn how to play tennis. The other guys in the hiking club said, come with me. You got to get out of the apartment. Come with me. If you have a Bible study, come to the Bible study. Whatever you want to do, get that person out. So you never know who's listening. So one day I go to play tennis, and I look over, and Nick is on the court. He's taking the class. Months later, and he's on the court, and it's Nick and 7 women. I look over, he's like, I'm like, there you go, you got out. You got out, he's doing it. So that's what it has a positive effect. We have a book here. This kid told a story about how a compliment saved his life. I couldn't get it out of my head. It was at an event I was hosting. He came up on stage and told a story about he was suicidal. He has bipolar condition. It doesn't have him. He manages it. And he was on the way out of school one day. He goes, today's the day I'm going to die by suicide. My parents aren't home. I'm going to do it. and somebody gave him a compliment on the way out and said, they liked his sneakers. Nice shoes, Steve. And they said, nice shoes. Some guy he doesn't even really know. So he walks out of school with a smile on his face. That compliment saved his life. He now does neuroscience in Boston, tests his little kids for autism. We almost lost that guy. So I can't get that story out of my head. 2 years later, I call him up, so we've got to make a children's book out of it. It's called Nice Shoes. I have some copies here. If you take one, just make a donation to cover the cost. Each one we print costs about $300. Just help us out. It's on the back. We have safety plans. Oh, I have these here today. You should fill these out. We'll talk about this in the afternoon session. Safety plans, they're big. It starts out with your red flags. For me, sleep. I don't sleep very well. And then what I got to do to get better. And the final step is, what do I need to be safe? Maybe I need to get the guns out of the house. Maybe I need to get the pills out of the house. Maybe I need to call all my friends and tell them I'm not doing so hot. How about that? So I have those here too. We'll talk about in the afternoon. We have a podcast called It's a Tough Subject. I lost 2 brothers to suicide. This young lady lost her dad to suicide. And I'm not telling you anything she hasn't said on the podcast. Her name is Jessica Seal. She lives around here somewhere. And she said to her father, when she was 18 years old, he wasn't behaving very well. And she said, I hope you die. He died by suicide. So she had post-traumatic behaviors, 35 years old. She gets her act together, gets a degree again. She dropped out of college. She's now working for rural health in South Carolina, working for you all, doing great things. We talk about it. And then post-vention, I hooked up with the Army National Guard Chaplain John Denny. If you have a business or organization and there's a suicide, we go in afterwards and say, how's everybody doing? And talk. I'm a victim impact. He's a chaplain, and we usually bring a counselor with us. We know what we can do. We know what we can't do. That's the dream team. We'll talk about this afternoon. I do host a suicide loss meeting, and I'll leave you with this, and we'll wrap it up right here. This is a great poem. I walked a mile with pleasure. She chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and narrow words said she, but oh, the things I learned when sorrow walked with me. Folks, I wish I wasn't a mental health advocate with all my heart. It just wasn't in the script. God had another plan for me, and now my misery's become my mission. And you're part of it now. Whether you like it or not, you're in it. You're in my mission. You got to tell people about us. You got to spread the word. You got to put your head on the swivel, help others out, and when you're in that other bucket, you got to raise your hand and say, I'm not doing so hot. We're in this together, all of us. How do they say it down south from this New Yorker? All y'all. I'm getting better. 20 years in this wonderful state. 21 years, I'm getting there. I can be coached. So there we go. There's my brothers. I love this picture. That's Mark and Matthew. That's Mark and Matthew. He had one of those cameras where you had to hit the button and run around. And Matthew was so excited to be in the picture that he forgot to zip up his pants. That's a classic. That's here in Wilmington. So there you go. Stay in touch. That's my talk. I think I wrapped it up on time all the time. Questions, answers. You can have questions. I may not have answers, but we'll try, and we have an afternoon together. So, anyone? I'll be here all day. All right. Thank you.